Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today, we have an exciting and inspiring story that will touch your heart and make you rethink what really matters in relationships. Sometimes beauty is in other eyes. We follow Dylan, a young heir who disguises himself as a homeless person, to discover the true essence of beauty amidst a prestigious beauty pageant in New York. And in the midst of this glamour, he meets Bella, a brilliant assistant who stands out for her generosity and authenticity. Get ready for a narrative full of twists, valuable lessons about true love and superficiality, and an ending that promises to warm your heart. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any exciting stories like this one. We really want to know, what city are you watching from? Leave your comment below. Let's explore this journey together that redefines beauty and love, and share with friends who also love inspiring stories. Now, let's get started. What really matters in a relationship? Amid the dazzling shine of New York, where superficiality seems to reign, Dylan finds himself on a journey that will transform his view of love and beauty. The charismatic heir of a powerful television network, at 35 years old, decides to disguise himself as a homeless person in search of authentic connections that go beyond his wealth and status. This unexpected act will lead him to a meeting that will change his life forever. Dylan has always been surrounded by luxury and glamour, but behind his impeccable appearance, there was an emotional void consuming him. He longed for a true connection, something that seemed impossible in a world where people often cared more about image than character. The beauty pageant, Miss USA, presents itself as the perfect opportunity to explore the true intentions of the contestants. He disguises himself, believing that as a homeless person, he would be able to see who truly cared for him, and not for what he could offer. Meanwhile, Bella, a 30-year-old production assistant, led a simple life, far from the beauty standards imposed by society. Her unkempt appearance did not prevent her from shining with her authenticity and kindness. She has always had to fight against expectations and judgments but found strength in her true essence. When Dylan, in disguise, approaches her, she does not see him as just a homeless person, but as someone worthy of respect. Bella offers support and a sandwich, and this unusual interaction creates a connection that challenges Dylan to rethink his concepts of what is truly meaningful in a relationship. As the competition progresses, the tension among the contestants intensifies. Fiona, the superficial and ambitious competitor, does everything to stand out, while Gabby, the generous and kind-hearted, becomes a loyal friend. The rivalry between them reveals the true nature of the contestants. Meanwhile, flashbacks from Bella's childhood reveal her struggles and insecurities, allowing the audience to connect with her emotional journey. She has always dreamed of being accepted for who she really is, without having to fit into a mold. The climax of the story occurs when Dylan's true identity is revealed during the pageant's finale. The shock and indignation on the contestants' own faces, especially Fiona's, force the audience to question the value of appearances and what truly defines beauty. By choosing Bella, Dylan not only transforms his own view of love, but also challenges the concept of competition, showing that true beauty lies in genuine connections. The story culminates in a symbolic scene where Dylan and Bella come together at a community event, reaffirming their new mission to promote authenticity and kindness in a world that often values superficiality. They become advocates for a new vision of beauty, encouraging everyone to look beyond appearances and appreciate what truly matters. This journey of self-discovery and true love not only transforms their lives but also inspires those around them to seek genuine connections and celebrate authenticity. Dylan was determined to detach himself from his superficial life. The disguise of a homeless person made him feel a freedom he had never known, but the journey would not be easy. In the first few days, he found himself struggling against the harsh reality of the streets. The biting cold of the night made his body shiver, and the lack of food and shelter challenged him daily. He began to question his inner strength, wondering if he really had the courage to continue. The voices in his head, which had always pushed him to achieve whatever he wanted, now seemed to echo amid the emptiness surrounding him. Meanwhile, Bella faced her own challenges. At work, the pressure from the team and the demands of her boss, an ambitious producer named Mark, made her life stressful. Mark had a very rigid view of beauty and often belittled assistants who did not fit his standards. Bella, although confident in her authenticity, felt the sting of his cutting words. With the beauty pageant underway, competitiveness filled the air, and she found herself among contestants striving to win Mark's approval, doing everything to stand out. When Dylan and Bella met for the first time, there was an instant connection. She saw him as someone who needed help, not as just a homeless person. This interaction made Dylan feel that there was something special about her, but he was also aware that by opening up to her, he could risk his mission. He hesitated because the idea of revealing himself as an heir made him anxious. What if she didn't want to be by his side anymore when she found out who he really was? With each passing day, Dylan felt more attracted to Bella, but he also struggled with the fear that his true identity could destroy the relationship that was forming. He decided to observe the candidates and their interactions, soon realizing how superficiality was intertwined in the relationships around him. The rivalry between Fiona and Gabby was evident. Fiona, with her stunning beauty and manipulative charm, used every strategy to bring down the other candidates. She didn't hesitate to spread rumors, and her treacherous behavior made Gabby, the kind-hearted one, feel increasingly insecure. As he watched this dynamic unfold, Dylan remembered his own life, filled with intrigue and power plays. He didn't want that anymore. In a moment of vulnerability, he revealed his insecurities to Bella, sharing his doubts about what truly mattered in a relationship. She, in turn, encouraged him to believe that true beauty lies in authenticity. However, the real world was not that simple. During a pageant event, Fiona hatched a plan to expose Dylan. She saw him talking to Bella and realized there was something more between them. In a moment of pure malice, Fiona decided to make a scene, revealing to the audience that the beggar was actually an heir to one of the largest television networks. The shock was palpable. The audience fell silent, and the candidates looked at Dylan with indignation and confusion. Bella, stunned, felt her heart race. The connection they had built was now threatened by this revelation. Dylan, dazed, realized that his quest for authenticity had been exposed in a way he had never imagined. He felt betrayed, not just by Fiona, but also by his own fears. The pressure of his true identity began to manifest, and he found himself questioning whether he could really trust Bella. Doubt began to undermine the trust he had started to build. In the midst of the turmoil, Dylan decided to step back, convinced that his true nature as an heir was a curse that drove people away. He needed a fresh start, but the pain of betrayal and uncertainty about the future left him paralyzed. Bella, for her part, felt lost. She wanted to understand what was happening, but the revelation left her confused. After all, what was more important, the truth or the connection they had created? This crisis would become a crucial point in their lives. Both needed to confront their insecurities and fears. While Dylan fought against the desire to hide again under the disguise, Bella faced the possibility of losing the only genuine connection she had found. The path ahead was filled with challenges, and the journey of personal overcoming would take them to unexpected places, forcing them to face not only others, but themselves. Dylan stepped away, feeling the weight of the revelation echo in his mind. The crowd around him seemed to blur, as if the world had become a smear. He wanted to scream, but the words failed in his throat. The feeling of betrayal wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, suffocating any hope that still remained. The idea that Fiona had exposed him so cruelly left him paralyzed. The laughter and whispers around him felt like daggers, each one filled with judgment and contempt. Meanwhile, Bella, still reeling from the revelation, felt a mix of confusion and pain. She had connected with Dylan in such a genuine way that the truth shook her. The image she had of him as a simple beggar, someone seeking freedom from the shackles of a superficial life, was now in ruins. The disillusionment hit her like a blow, and she found herself struggling to understand who he really was. The question that hammered in her mind was, could she still trust him? Dylan began to wander aimlessly through the streets, his mind spinning in a whirlwind of thoughts. He didn't want his true identity to define him, but the reality was relentless. People saw him as an heir, not as the man seeking authenticity and freedom. With each step he took, the feeling of being an imposter grew stronger. He remembered the voices that had always encouraged him to fight, but now they echoed as a warning that he had failed. Meanwhile, Mark's pressure on Bella intensified. The producer, upon learning of Dylan's revelation, decided to use the situation to his advantage. He summoned Bella for a meeting and, with a cold smile, suggested that she get closer to Dylan. You can use this connection to secure your victory in the competition. The media will love a love story between an heir and a candidate, he said, with a tone that made it clear there was no choice. Bella felt disgusted. She didn't want to be a pawn in a game, but Mark's pressure was immense. Dylan, in the midst of despair, decided he needed to find shelter. He remembered a small support center he had seen during his walks. It was a place where people in difficult situations could find a bit of comfort and support. With a heavy heart, he made his way there, hoping that solitude would help him sort out his thoughts. Upon entering, he was greeted by a warm environment, but the gazes of the other attendees, filled with compassion and curiosity, made him feel like a stranger in his own skin. Meanwhile, Bella faced her own dilemma. The idea of using Dylan for her benefit left her distressed. She knew the connection they had created was genuine, but Mark's pressure made her feel cornered. She decided to seek him out, determined to discover the truth about what had happened and clarify things. Deep down, she believed that authenticity was more valuable than any beauty title. Days passed, and Dylan began to feel more comfortable at the support center. He met people who, like him, were fighting their own battles. One of them, an older man named Tom, became a figure of comfort and wisdom. Tom was an artist who had lost everything but still believed in the beauty of life. His stories of overcoming and resilience inspired Dylan to look at his difficulties in a new way. Meanwhile, Bella, determined to find Dylan, decided to go to the support center. She knew she needed to confront him, but the fear that he might not want her anymore paralyzed her. Upon arriving, she saw Dylan talking to Tom. The look on his face, a mix of pain and hope, broke her heart. When their eyes met, an electric current passed through the room. Bella felt she needed to approach, but what would she say? Dylan, in turn, felt a mix of relief and fear upon seeing Bella. He wanted to open up, share his insecurities, and explain that his life as an heir was not what it seemed. But at the same time, the fear of being rejected again held him back from taking the first step. The tension between them was palpable, and the weight of their personal stories seemed to create an insurmountable barrier. At that moment, both Dylan and Bella were on the brink of a crucial choice. They needed to decide whether to allow themselves to trust each other again, or to let fear and insecurity take over. The journey toward personal overcoming and the search for truth would become a difficult path, filled with twists and turns, but also full of opportunities for a new beginning. The lessons they had learned on the streets and in the challenges of the contest now required them to be braver than ever, willing to face not only others but themselves. Dylan was sitting in a corner of the support center, his eyes lost in a distant point. When Bella finally gathered the courage to approach him, the atmosphere was calm, and the murmur of conversations and laughter in the background seemed like a soft melody, but for Dylan, everything was deafening. He felt the weight of expectation and insecurity, as if he were about to leap into an endless abyss. Bella hesitated for a moment, but the determination in her heart pushed her forward. She remembered the conversations they had, the laughter, and the promises that they would always be there for each other. Now, however, the shadow of revelation loomed between them like a dark cloud. She knew she needed to speak, but the words seemed to get lost in her mind. When she finally got close, Dylan looked up. His eyes, usually so full of life, were now filled with sadness and confusion. Bella felt a wave of pain at seeing his vulnerability. "Dylan," she began, her voice trembling. Can we talk?" He nodded slowly, but his closed expression showed that he was far from comfortable. Bella sat beside him, and the silence stretched on, heavy as lead. What could they say to each other that could undo the hurt and misunderstanding? "I didn't know you were who you are," Bella finally said, the sincerity in her voice cutting through the tension. "I met you as someone seeking freedom, who wants to be more than what people expect, and now this." The phrase hung in the air, and the pain in her eyes was palpable. Dylan sighed. "I didn't want you to find out this way. I'm not just the heir to a fortune, Bella. I'm more than my last name. I am a man trying to figure out who he really is, away from all of this." He gestured toward the outside world, as if he could push away the expectations that surrounded him. "Fiona shouldn't have exposed me. I barely know what I'm doing." The anguish in Dylan's eyes made Bella feel responsible, and a wave of empathy washed over her. "You don't have to carry that weight alone," she said, seeking the connection that had been between them. "We can figure this out together. I don't want you to feel alone in this." But before Dylan could respond, a group of people entered the center, laughing and chatting animatedly. Their energy was contagious, but Dylan only felt a tightening in his heart. He realized they were what he could have been, someone who felt free and accepted. And for a brief moment, the pain of rejection hit him with full force. "I can't do this," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I'm not like them. I can't just be happy when everything feels so complicated. I am an imposter." The words cut Bella like a knife. She knew that what Dylan felt was real, but the idea that he saw himself as an imposter troubled her. "Dylan, you are not an imposter. You are human. We all have flaws and insecurities. That's what makes us real." But Dylan's doubt ran deep. He was trapped in a cycle of self-judgment, unable to see the truth that was right before him. The revelation of his identity had shattered his confidence, and the idea of success seemed a distant and empty concept. What was success after all? Being loved or accepted, or being free to be who you are, without masks? Bella, realizing that the conversation was becoming increasingly difficult, decided to change her approach. "Dylan, what if we think about what really matters? What do you want for your life? For you, not for others?" Dylan fell silent, reflecting on the question. In his mind, images of moments when he felt truly happy flashed by, when he was playing guitar on the streets, helping others at the center, or even when he was with Bella, laughing and having fun. "I want to be free," he finally responded, his voice stronger. "I want to be myself, without fear of what others think." The determination in his voice made Bella's heart race. She realized this was not just a conversation, it was a turning point. They were not just an heir and a contest candidate. They were two individuals fighting their own battles, seeking authenticity in a world full of expectations. Then Bella said, taking his hand, "Let's do this together. Let's find out who we really are. Let's support each other, no matter what happens." Dylan looked at their intertwined hands, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a thread of hope. The connection they had was real, and maybe, just maybe, it would be enough to face what was to come. He realized that true overcoming was not about hiding who he was, but about accepting every part of himself, even the most complicated ones. While the group on the other side of the room continued to laugh and have fun, Dylan and Bella were on a new path. A path that would require courage and vulnerability, but promised a new perspective on life, on what it meant to be authentic, and above all, on what it meant to love and be loved. Dylan and Bella's decision to support each other brought a new light to their lives. In the days that followed that revealing conversation, Dylan began to experience a sense of freedom he had never known before. He decided that he would no longer hide behind the image others had of him. He wanted to show himself as he really was, a young man with dreams and insecurities, and not just an heir to a fortune. The first step was to distance himself from his family's expectations. Dylan enrolled in a music course, something he had always wanted to do but never had the courage for. He felt that by playing guitar and composing, he was connecting with his true essence. The classes were challenging, but he felt alive expressing his feelings through music. With each note he played, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. However, the consequences of this new choice did not come without challenges. Dylan's family reacted poorly upon learning that he was distancing himself from the family business. His father, a strict and controlling man, demanded that he return to the traditional path that would prepare him to take over the family company. "You are throwing your life away, Dylan," he said in a tone of disappointment that pierced the young man's heart. "This dream of being a musician is just a phase. You can't afford to be reckless." These words echoed in Dylan's mind, creating a storm of doubts. He questioned whether he had made the right decision. The nights he sat alone in his room, trying to compose, were often interrupted by dark thoughts. He felt torn between the desire to follow his heart and the pressure from his family. It was an internal conflict that left him distressed. Bella, noticing Dylan's internal struggle, made it a point to be present. She invited him out, to play in the park. or just to talk about the things they loved. One afternoon, while they were walking together, Bella looked into Dylan's eyes and said, "You are more than what your family expects of you. What matters is how you feel about yourself. Don't let them dictate your happiness." Her words were like a balm for his soul, but doubt still lingered. The pressure increased when his father called him for a meeting with investors. Dylan knew it was a test. If he showed up and behaved like the obedient son, it might be easier. But he also knew that this meant giving up his dreams. The struggle between following the path his family chose and seeking his own happiness left him exhausted. The night before the meeting, Dylan sat with his guitar, trying to find comfort in music. He thought of all the times he felt free while playing and how Bella supported him. He began to compose a new song, one that spoke about the quest for authenticity and the courage to follow his own steps. The words flowed like a catharsis. He knew he needed to find a way to express himself, not just through music, but also in his life. On the day of the meeting, Dylan was nervous, but at the same time determined. He dressed in a shirt that expressed his style, something his family would consider unprofessional. As he entered the room, he felt heavy stares on him, as if everyone was waiting for him to conform. But an internal voice whispered that he could no longer hide. During the meeting, while his father spoke about the company's plans, Dylan decided it was time to speak up. He interrupted, his voice trembling but firm. "Dad, I need to be honest. What I really want is to pursue music. This is what makes me happy, and I can't ignore it any longer." The room fell silent, and the expression on his father's face was a mix of shock and disappointment. But deep down, Dylan felt a sense of relief. He had spoken the truth. The consequences were immediate. His father was furious and, after the meeting, said he could no longer count on him for the future of the company. The words were harsh, but Dylan no longer felt the weight of guilt. He had made a decision for himself. In the days that followed, life transformed. Dylan was met with a mix of support and disappointment from friends and family. Some supported him, praising his courage, while others criticized him for being irresponsible. The social pressure was intense, but there was a new strength within him. He was more willing to face challenges and fight for what truly mattered. Bella became his safe harbor. They spent hours together discussing dreams, fears, and hopes. She also encouraged him to perform at local events, something that made him nervous but excited. The first show was at a small cafe, and despite his fear, Dylan took the stage. The song he had composed the night before flowed from his lips, and looking at the audience, he saw Bella smiling, full of pride. The energy of the presentation was contagious, and for the first time, he felt truly free. Dylan realized that the journey wouldn't be easy, but with every step he took, he felt he was getting closer to who he really was. His family's expectations still loomed like a shadow, but now he had the courage to face that battle. With Bella by his side, he was ready to discover what it meant to be authentic, even when the world outside seemed so determined to define who he should be. The struggle for freedom and truth was just beginning, but Dylan was willing to face any obstacle that came his way. Dylan was in a moment of transformation in his life. The decision to step away from his family's expectations and pursue his dream of being a musician brought forth a series of internal and external challenges. As he struggled to be true to himself, the pressure from his parents and the doubts that arose in his mind were constant. The weight of his father's words still echoed in his thoughts, but something inside him had changed. He began to trust himself more. With Bella's support, Dylan found the strength to confront his insecurities. Their friendship evolved into a deep bond, where they encouraged each other to be authentic. Bella not only motivated him in his musical journey, but also made him reflect on his fears. They spent hours talking about their aspirations and challenges, and her presence brought a comfort Dylan had never experienced before. Through this friendship, he learned that he was not alone in his struggle. After the meeting with his father, Dylan felt lost for a while. The criticisms from friends and family weighed heavily on his shoulders. But gradually, he began to see things from a new perspective. Instead of viewing the negative words as a burden, Dylan decided to use them as fuel. He realized that success was not just about pleasing others or having material wealth. True success was finding happiness and fulfillment in doing what he loved. This discovery was a turning point for him. Over time, Dylan began performing at small events. He still felt fear and anxiety, but when he stepped on stage, something magical happened. The music he composed spoke of his experiences, his struggles, and his quest for inner truth. People began to connect with his songs, and this motivated him even more. He realized that by sharing his emotions, he was helping others feel understood and accepted. This exchange made him feel that his art had a purpose. The performances became a form of therapy for Dylan. He learned to turn his failures into lessons. With every mistake he made, he got up stronger and more determined. The sleepless nights, where doubt consumed him, began to diminish. He learned to use those moments to write, reflect, and reconnect with his essence. Music became a vital part of his life, and with every chord, he felt closer to who he really was. With Bella's help, Dylan began to open up more. He made new friends who were also passionate about music and art. These new friendships brought different perspectives on life and the importance of following one's dreams. Together, they shared experiences, laughter, and most importantly, mutual support. This network of friends became a pillar in his life, proving that true wealth is not just in material goods, but in the connections we create along the journey. Dylan began to apply the lessons he learned throughout his journey. He became kinder to himself, recognizing that perfection was not the goal. Accepting his imperfections helped him grow and feel more comfortable in his own skin. He understood that every mistake was an opportunity to learn, to rise again, and to move forward. This new wisdom transformed his worldview. Instead of seeing challenges as barriers, he viewed them as stepping stones for personal growth. Dylan's journey was still far from easy. His family's expectations continued to cast a shadow over his life, but now he faced them head-on. He learned to stand up for his space and his choices. Through music, he found a voice to express his feelings and confront his fears. Each song became a step toward his freedom. Dylan realized that true overcoming was not just about conquering challenges, but also about accepting who he was and valuing his journey. With Bella by his side, he felt stronger than ever. Their friendship had become a powerful force, helping him navigate the ups and downs of life. Together, they discovered that personal growth is an ongoing path, filled with lessons, love, and above all, self-discovery. And so, Dylan moved forward, determined to write his own story, in his own words, with courage and authenticity. Dylan was about to face the biggest challenge of his life. He had been invited to perform at an important city event, where an audience full of influential people in the music world would be present. It was the chance he had been waiting for. But the pressure was immense. The memory of his father's disapproving gaze and the doubtful words of old friends began to haunt him again. Sitting in a dark corner of the backstage, he felt small, as if all the progress he had made was about to crumble. Bella was by his side, noticing the tension on his face. She took the initiative to speak. "Dylan, you have been through so much. Remember why you started. It's not about what they think, but about what you feel. Music is your voice. Let it speak for you." Her words resonated within him, echoing everything he had learned. But doubt still consumed him. And what if he failed? What if the audience didn't accept him? He took a deep breath, trying to find that spark of confidence he had cultivated throughout his journey. But the uncertainty felt heavy. At that moment, the dressing room door opened, and one of the event organizers appeared. "Dylan, you need to get ready. It's your turn." The words were like a call, but also a warning. Adrenaline rushed through his veins as he stood up, feeling his heart race. With one last glance at Bella, he left the dressing room and stepped onto the stage, where the bright lights temporarily blinded him. As the music began to play, he felt a knot in his stomach, but at the same time, a wave of determination enveloped him. He remembered all the nights he had sat with Bella, discussing their dreams, their fears, and the failures he had faced. His mind went back to every mistake he had made, every tear he had shed, and how those moments had shaped him. He was no longer there to please others. He was there to express himself. As he started to sing, his insecurity dissipated. The lyrics he had written, full of his struggles and hopes, came to life. He surrendered to the music, feeling each note vibrate in his body. The audience, initially hesitant, began to react. Faces lit up, people moved to the rhythm, and for a moment, Dylan forgot everything that had held him captive. He was free, but in the middle of the song, an unexpected mistake happened. He mixed up a lyric, and for a moment, panic took over him. The silence in the room felt deafening. Dylan stopped, insecurity threatening to overwhelm him again. What would he do now? Would this be the end of his dream? But then, he remembered the most important lesson he had learned. Vulnerability is part of authenticity. Instead of hiding behind the mistake, he smiled, embraced the flaw, and continued to sing, transforming that moment into part of the performance. People began to applaud, recognizing his courage. By the end of the song, a feeling of euphoria washed over him. The audience was on their feet, clapping and cheering. Dylan felt tears streaming down his face, not just from happiness, but from relief. He had overcome not just fear or doubt, but also the need to be perfect. Success wasn't about being flawless, but about being true. After the performance, while the audience was still buzzing, Dylan turned to Bella, who had tears in her eyes, smiling. He hugged her tightly, realizing he wasn't alone on this journey. Their friendship had solidified in that moment, and the connection they shared had become an even stronger foundation. Dylan realized he had found more than a place in the music world. He had found himself. The journey of starting over, that had seemed so daunting, had turned into a celebration of his authenticity. He understood that failures were not what defined him, but rather how he rose and moved forward. With that, he decided he would continue to write songs and perform, not just for himself, but for all those who felt lost, seeking a voice that represented them. That night, as the city shone outside, Dylan knew his story was just beginning. He had found his inner strength and was ready to face any challenge that lay ahead, with Bella by his side and music in his heart. The true wealth he sought was not in fame or recognition, but in the freedom to be who he really was. And so, he took a step toward the future with courage and authenticity, ready to write each new page of his life. After the performance, Dylan felt a wave of emotions envelop him. The thunderous applause still echoed in his mind, and he could hardly believe he had done it. As he stepped away from the stage, the adrenaline that had consumed him now turned into a mix of relief and joy. He knew that moment meant more than just a successful performance. It was a new phase in his life. Bella found him as soon as he left the stage. With bright eyes and a wide smile, she hugged him tightly. "You were amazing. I knew you could do it," she exclaimed, her voice full of emotion. Dylan returned the hug, feeling the strength of her friendship supporting him. He had never realized how much he needed that moment, not only to assert himself as an artist, but also to connect with those who truly mattered. "I don't know what happened up there," Dylan admitted, laughing nervously. "I mixed up a lyric and thought it was all over." He looked into Bella's eyes, seeking the understanding he always found in her. "But then I realized I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be myself." Bella's eyes shone upon hearing this. "Exactly. You showed everyone that being authentic is more important than anything else, and that's what makes your music special. People will feel your truth." As they talked, other musicians and guests began to approach. One of the event organizers, a gray-haired man with a warm smile, came to greet him. "Dylan, you really stood out tonight. People were talking about your performance. The way you handled the mistake was admirable. It shows not only talent, but courage." Dylan felt his heart warm with those words. It was the first time someone recognized not only his musical ability, but also his vulnerability. He realized that by sharing his truth, he had created a deeper connection with the audience. People weren't just listening to his music, they were feeling his emotions. However, despite the success, a shadow of concern still lingered over him. He thought of his father and the expectations that had always been on his shoulders. And what if that isn't enough for him? Dylan thought, his expression growing darker. Bella noticed and held his hand. "Don't worry about what others think. What matters is that you are becoming the person you want to be. You've already taken a big step, and your dad, he will eventually see that." Bella's words were a balm for his soul. He decided he wouldn't let doubt take over him again. Life was made of risks, and every mistake was an opportunity for growth. The music he was creating now carried his truth, and he was willing to share that truth with the world, regardless of what others thought. In the following weeks, Dylan began to compose new songs, drawing inspiration from the experiences he had lived. He explored themes of struggle, love, friendship, and overcoming obstacles. Each song was an extension of his personal journey, and he felt freer than ever. He also began performing at small local shows, where he could experiment and connect with the audience in a more intimate way. Bella's support was crucial. She became his partner not only in performances, but also in songwriting. Together, they created songs that reflected their lives, their struggles, and their victories. Their friendship deepened, transforming into a powerful creative force. Over time, Dylan started to realize that his music was touching people. Messages of support and gratitude began to come in, and he was surprised to see how his songs were helping others face their own challenges. In this way, he found a greater purpose in his art. One quiet night, while looking at the stars outside his house, Dylan reflected on his journey. He had come from a place of fear and insecurity to a space of authenticity and courage. He knew there would still be challenges ahead, but now he was prepared to face them. With Bella by his side and music in his heart, he felt ready to write each new chapter of his life, embracing not only the joy of success, but also the lessons the journey had taught him. Dylan sat in his room, surrounded by sheet music and guitars, reflecting on how his journey had changed his life. He looked at the lyrics he had written and realized that each one was a piece of his soul, a testament to his struggles and triumphs. The performance that once made him nervous was now a memory of overcoming, a reminder that he had the strength to face his fears and connect with people on a deeper level. His friendship with Bella meant the world to him. Together, they not only created music but also built an unbreakable bond. She had stood by him in moments of doubt. And now, when he felt at his peak, he knew that it was all a result of mutual support. The truth they found in each other became a beacon, guiding them towards new opportunities and experiences. As time passed, Dylan began to receive invitations to perform at larger events. The recognition that once seemed a distant dream was now becoming a reality. He understood that true success wasn't just about the applause or fame, but about the ability to touch people's lives. His songs, which were once a way to express his insecurities, were now a source of inspiration and hope for others. He began receiving messages from fans sharing how his songs helped them face their own challenges. This brought a new purpose to his life. One night, as he prepared for another performance, Dylan felt a wave of gratitude. He knew he wasn't alone on this journey. Every mistake, every fresh start, and every achievement were essential in shaping who he had become. He had learned that failing didn't mean the end, but rather an opportunity to rise and try again. This new perspective strengthened him, allowing him to see himself as a true artist, someone who didn't need to be perfect, but who needed to be authentic. In that performance, as he stepped onto the stage, Dylan wasn't just there to perform, he was there to share his story. He looked at the audience and saw faces reflecting anticipation and hope. The connection he felt with them was palpable. As he played his songs, he realized he was delivering more than notes and lyrics. He was sharing his essence, his vulnerability, and his strength. And as the last note sounded and the applause filled the air, he knew he had fulfilled his mission. Dylan had transformed into a different artist and person. He not only overcame his insecurities but also found the value of friendship and authenticity. What was once a dream was now his reality. He became a symbol of resilience and courage, showing that everyone has the capacity to turn their struggles into songs of victory. As the night came to a close, Dylan felt the joy of having followed his heart. He understood that life was a series of fresh starts and that every step taken toward authenticity was a step toward true success. With Bella by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next and create new memories that would enrich his journey even further. Now, he invites you to reflect on your own experiences. What challenges have you faced? What lessons have you learned along the way? Share your stories in the comments. Your voice is important and can inspire others to find their own strength. And if you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe to the channel so we can continue sharing more impactful narratives. Together, we can celebrate victories and learn from the struggles we all face. What was the moment that touched your heart the most or left you speechless? We really want to hear your opinion. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts with us. Your perspective is essential to us and helps us spread even more engaging stories. If you know someone who might get excited about this story, feel free to share the video with them. Together, let's spread moments that inspire and touch the heart. And if you're looking forward to more narratives that capture the essence of life and emotion, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when we release new videos that promise to take you on a new emotional adventure. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like. I really want to read your thoughts about the story in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you in the next exciting story.